But actually, the catalyst, joking aside, for this business is my son Tom. He's 20 years old now. He's at second year at university, Bristol University in the UK. He's dyslexic. He's a visual learner. So he managed to get his way through his education largely by consuming relevant bits of television programs that he foraged out for himself. So what Boclips is about as a platform is bringing the best and the most relevant content, video content from around the world, safely into classrooms. And safety is a real theme here. So obviously, those of you with children, and I'm sure you've heard from friends and family, the education market, like many other sectors that we're talking about here today, is changing thanks to digital and the internet. So the days of well-thumbed physical textbooks and chalky blackboards, and even teachers with questionable collars and clipper ties, are now being replaced by connected classrooms with interactive whiteboards and digital textbooks. And teachers today are given real-time analytics and data on how their students are progressing through topics and subjects and are able to adjust accordingly. The big question, though, is whether or not all of this technology and this innovation is actually making the learner's world of education any more engaging. And there's a recent Gallup poll that over here in the US says that only 50% of high school adolescents actually say that they're engaged by learning. That's probably not a surprise. That's a typical thing a teenager might say. But perhaps more interestingly, in the higher education space, 50% of first-time graduates don't complete their degrees. In the online and remote learning space, that's down to 3%. And I believe that one of the critical things about that is that a lot of investment and innovation has gone into the delivery of content into classrooms, but not actually into the production of the content itself. Many of the materials, even in digital form, are little more than PDFs of what we learned from back in the 1970s when we were all in school. Well, I say that, so maybe some of us are a little bit different from that. But they're grey, they're not very inspiring, they're not engaging, and quite often they're out of date by the time they get into the classroom. Yet outside the classroom, the world for our students today is completely different. It's bright, it's engaging, it's exciting, it's on demand. Look at what Netflix are doing, Hulu, Disney, etc., etc. That's the world that our students now inhabit. And this gentleman says that next year, 80% of all internet traffic is going to be video content. Why? Because video is the most engaging medium on the planet. It's why we have a multi-billion-dollar global television advertising industry. It's why and how millennials educate themselves, how they share information, consume entertainment. So that is a huge opportunity moving forwards. And really the question is, given that, why isn't more video content being used in the classroom? So on the left-hand side, if you're a traditional education publisher, a Pearson, let's say, for example, your courseware creators are going to want to get hold of video content. But the copyright minefield is a minefield, okay? So if I want to use in my physics textbook an iconic clip to illustrate terminal velocity, so Felix Baumgartner jumping out of the Red Bull balloon from space, I'm sure you've all seen that. Whose door do I knock on to get approval to use that clip? Do I go to Felix Baumgartner's agent? Do I go to CNN, who broadcast the footage, or do I go to the sponsor Red Bull? It's not clear to me. Are those rights automatically cleared for education, even though they're cleared for advertising and programming? Not necessarily so. And of course, the economics in education, God, they're so different from the world of advertising and program making. If on the right-hand side I'm a teacher and I go to an open video platform, what am I going to find when I get there? Typically, those video platforms, first and foremost, are entertainment platforms. They pay lip service to education. The content there is not curated, and it potentially is dangerous because it gives your students access to content and indeed to people you wouldn't want your students to come across. And that content can be dated, the links can be broken. So it's a challenging world. And what we're seeing is YouTube as a platform increasingly being blocked by schools, by districts, and by entire countries. Okay, so we know why this is. It's the content problem. It's the people that people will meet there, students will meet there. But also there's a big copyright backlash now from regulators around the world. So certainly in the EU, it's now beholden upon the enterprise with the end relationship with the end user to clear all IP in the works that they have within the content that they showcase. And that gives an opportunity for a new entrant to come to the market. So Boclips is 5 years old. Today, as Ben said, we have 2 million short-form video clips from 160 of the most famous media brands that you will well know about, and some that you won't, all sitting on that platform. So brands like PBS, the Smithsonian, TED, Dow Jones, Wall Street Journal. We have all their breaking news and all their archive content. All of that is curated to academic standards. It's not got any advertising and inappropriate content right around it, and importantly, is all copyright cleared, removing all of those headaches. So what's the market opportunity that we're going after? Just in the US, the instructional materials market today is a $12 billion market, and the majority of that has now gone digital. So that is an opportunity for us to supply that content into those digital textbooks to enrich them and to bring them to life. What we're also seeing in the education market is teachers pushing back against those traditional publishers and creating and curating content for themselves. So looking out to supplemental resources that they can bring together pedagogically. And some reports, as this suggests, state that about 50% of the instructional materials market is now in that supplemental space. So how do we take advantage of that market opportunity? So on your left-hand side, all of those different content partners, we take all of their video assets, we take all of the metadata associated with those media assets. That might be the latest fun and games between our Prime Minister and your President. God knows what's happened overnight. But also it could be news reports from the Vietnam War, from the 60s, right the way through to that clip of terminal velocity and Felix Baumgartner jumping out of the Red Bull balloon from space. We then use data science, specifically human-trained algorithms, subject matter experts trained algorithms, to take all of those video assets and match them against the different academic standards in the markets within which we operate around the world, which is the US, the Middle East, and the ASEAN marketplace. We then deliver that content either for a traditional education publisher to download, embed, and put into a digital textbook, or to deliver streaming on demand directly into Classroom. That gives us an incredible reach into how educators around the world are using different video clips to illustrate different parts of the curriculum. And what that then translates into is personalized search returns. So our search algorithm knows that if you're a K6 teacher in Wisconsin teaching physics and terminal velocity, we can then return back the most relevant clip based on usage and rating to that particular teacher. So the business is 5 years old. The first 2 years of the business was working with my background, which is sort of the content provision market, the video content production market around the world, getting the marketplace to a state where it had a critical mass of content. So in 2016, we started selling to traditional publishers. We now work with or work in 20 different countries around the world, traditional publishers, ministries of education, and new entrants into education who have no legacy book businesses, but are providing new and engaging solutions into classrooms. About 18 months ago, we started moving into the streaming and supplemental space. So that's enabling our platform via API to feed directly into the existing products and services that teachers already use, but for those to be illuminated by video. And that's a really important point. So what we're not asking teachers to do is wrap their heads around a new user experience or a new brand. Our content and our feature set just materializes within those existing products and services. These K-12 and higher ed partners that I've listed here will all be introducing our platform and our content in early 2020. At the same time, we've run an R&D product, Boclips for Teachers, in schools across the US. We have about 10,500 teachers accessing this platform for free as we speak. They've consumed about 50,000 minutes of video in the classroom. 70% of the searches that they do lead to playback. So it's an entire alternative to YouTube where it's blocked in their school or their district. You'll see some of the feedback that we've got. You know that the videos are child friendly, so if you don't have time to watch it before showing the children, you'll have no issues. And that's really important. That's the reassurance that teachers are looking for. We also plant a tree in every school that uses our product. Why? Because Boclips is named after the ficus tree under which Buddha sat when he became enlightened. So we have a very much a sort of purpose-driven and sustainable part to our business as well. Just sort of moving forwards into next year, so we're looking to have a business next year that will be close to $10 million of revenue. You'll see that the shape of that revenue is moving in line with the market. So we become 50% download for the core curriculum market and 50% streaming by the end of the year. And I think for me personally, it's been an incredible journey. And if we as a business can make a small difference to how engaging, how bright, and how interesting the student learning journey is, there's a more chance that they'll be engaged and a better chance that they'll pass their exams at the end of the journey, much as my son did. So, thank you very much.